So this is a One Punch Man chapter I've been waiting for a very long time. In this one we finally get the full-on reveal of Amai Mask's backstory. Amai Mask has had a lot more screen time in the story since the Monster Association arc, and throughout that time we've gotten like little inklings of who Amai Mask really is about. He started off as just a very shallow and pretty cold-hearted person, but then as time went on we started to get like little inklings of something much deeper to him, maybe some kind of dark secret that he has. Even a strong insinuation that he in fact is a monster and not a human at all. Well, in this chapter we finally get like the full breakdown of what is Amai Mask's deal, and we even get his real name. So for this chapter I'm going to do a lot more just like straight up reading from the chapter itself, because I feel like a lot of this stuff is very important context. And then of course I'll give my thoughts at the very end. I am extremely excited for this arc to get going. This is probably one of my favorite arcs post Monster Association arc. So I hope you're as hyped for this chapter as I am. Let's get right into it. So the chapter is titled Handsomely Masked Sweet Mask, and it actually has a pretty awesome chapter cover. It's of this like super detailed motorcycle being worked on by the hero. I think his name's a Mad Dog Yankee or something similar to that. And for some reason Saitama and Metal Bat are both helping him work on it, or kind of just admiring the motorcycle itself. But as we get to the first page of the chapter, we pick up right from the end of the previous one, where Amai Mask is trying to recruit Saitama to become like the ideal perfect hero, and putting him under this like forced crash course. And it all starts with Amai Mask continuing to speak to Saitama, who is very bored at what he's talking about. Appearance is extremely important for heroes too. Your looks will greatly affect your approval ratings. Are you even listening? Do you even want to become popular? Then he continues talking to a very clearly irritated Saitama. Your style can be described as rough around the edges. My personal staff will give you a beauty makeover of the highest standard. Tomorrow we will work harder in your makeovers, so you better be prepared. And Saitama's like, what the hell, tomorrow? Nobody told me about that. But then Amai Mask continues. I've already told you multiple times and I know you have plenty of free time. There's a fine associated with breach of contract if you bail. For beauty and health, staying up late is strictly forbidden. You must get enough sleep and don't forget about skincare. And then we get a quick little image of overgrown Rover running, which I think is pretty adorable, but moving on. So we move on to the next day, and we see that Amai Mask has put together this like full-on training team to transform Saitama into the ideal hero. He has a fashion coordinator, a voice trainer, a hairstylist, a speech consultant, a smile and facial expression advisor, even a character designer to completely redo his look. Now this is the only issue I have with this chapter, because everything else gets adapted pretty damn well. But just cutting in here really quick, I recently partnered up with GamerSupps. A lot of you might have already heard about GamerSupps before. They're like the go-to for energy supplements for gamers and people that enjoy anime and manga. Pretty big in the community. It's a product with 0 sugar, less than 1 carb, and less than 1 calorie, so it's keto friendly and diabetic safe. So this is pretty big because I used to drink a lot of energy drinks, and it's both healthier and cheaper than just straight up buying energy drinks from the gas station or something. And on top of that, I'm sure some of you may love this, they also have these like very aesthetic waifu cups that of course are anime themed because, you know, waifu. And what's really cool is if you click the link in my description and use my code AnimeX, you'll get 10% off your order, and on top of that, you'll be helping this channel greatly. I wouldn't be recommending this stuff to you guys if I didn't use it myself. I literally drink it every day. Like, I'm drinking it right now as I record this video. The flavors are good, the service is amazing, you get your stuff very quickly. So make sure to use the link in my description and use my code to save some money. But back to the chapter. One thing he says is, you bought your suit from an online party costume shop, didn't you? Which is a pretty bogus thing to say, because for those of you guys that actually know where Saitama got his suit from, it actually has a lot of sentimental value to it. We learned in an OVA episode that he got it made by an actual like small shop tailor that was so grateful that Saitama saved his shop from this like street gang that he ended up making him the suit of a true hero for free. And it was the very last thing he made before he closed shop. But carrying on with the chapter, as for the handsomeness part, I'd like you to aim to become someone like me in the end, to reach a level where you can be called Handsomely Masked Sweet Mask. And of course Saitama has one of his classic rebuttals. He says, but I don't think you're especially handsome. Plus, I don't really know you. Amai Mask surprised says, no, do you really not know who I am? I've been in movies and all these different series. And Saitama responds by saying the only channels available at my old place were free channels to report on disasters. Which of course shocks Amai Mask, because he's like, how do you just not know what the hell's going on in the world? He asks him, don't you feel that's too hard? And Saitama says, well, I am a hero for a hobby. And this kind of opens Amai Mask's eyes a little bit to who he really is. So then he says, like, all right, screw all the training and all these like specialists that are going to help redo your look. Let's just go take a walk. And this is when we really get to understand like the true character of Amai Mask. And it starts to reveal that maybe he isn't like the cold-hearted, super vain person that we thought of, or at least not for like very simple reasons, mainly just to like be popular and have a nice appearance. There are actually some deep-rooted and genuine morals as to why he does what he does. And it does come from a very selfless place. But as they go for a walk, he continues talking. I wanted to abolish the S-Class heroes. After all, I'm in a position to where I can advise the upper management. They're too self-centered. What we need right now are heroes who can live up to the public expectations and necessities. Blast is no better. It's no good if we don't even know his true character. Only when hope is visualized can it give people that will to march forward. A grand justice like the sun that can illuminate the world. An ideal hero, a great hope. One who actually exists and can be seen with one's own eyes. That's what I want. And Saitama asks the obvious question. This ideal hero of yours, why don't you just become that yourself? You're already pretty popular. And then Amai Mask has this like dark look in his face when he says, I can't become that. Which, like any other person, kind of weirds Saitama out, like his reaction to that. But Amai Mask just ignores it and says, walking amidst nature feels good, doesn't it? If we don't do this every now and then, we might collapse from stress. And that's honestly pretty good advice from Amai Mask. Like, everyone here should follow that. I should follow it. I don't think I go outside enough. But anyway. Then he starts like flaming Saitama for his famous blank stare. And he suggests, oh yeah, I know a place nearby that can cheer you up. So they end up going to an amusement park, and it can be very clearly seen that Saitama does not want to be there. But Amai Mask continues the conversation. He says, why did you become a hero in the first place, Cape Baldy? And Saitama responds by saying, I said it was a hobby, and my name is Saitama, by the way. So this is where we learn Amai Mask's real name. He says my real name is Butte, which I think is kind of funny, but anyway, his name's Butte. And Saitama makes the mistake of asking him why he's a hero. So then Amai Mask responds by saying, for that I need to tell you my story first. And if we know Saitama, we know that he is not a fan of like backstories or long explanations. So he's like, stop right there, I'll pass. But for the Ferris wheel that they're on to go fully around, it takes about 30 minutes, so we might as well listen to the story. And this is when we finally get to Amai Mask's full backstory, and it's honestly much more tragic than I think a lot of people would have thought it was. I know, including myself, when I first read the webcomic, I was pretty surprised, but he begins explaining his story by saying, I've always had an inferiority complex with my ugly appearance. To compensate for it, I thought I should at least be beautiful on the inside, and lived my life adhering to strict moral principles. Around 3 years ago, right after the Hero Association was established, I challenged the Hero exam. At that time of the establishment, the review process was even more lax than it is now. Everyone got a pass and turnover was intense. Out of 10 people who started in the S-Class, hardly one remained after 2 months. I was very hesitant to show my face in the beginning, so I always wore a mask while conducting hero activity. I started to have fans, and even though they wanted to see my face, I never revealed it in public. Nobody knew my real face and name. I stole the information I had submitted at the time of my application and destroyed it. When I got promoted to B-Class, I chose a hero name that sounded somewhat powerful and mysterious. Secret Mask. As the public interest in me rose, so did the fear of my real face being revealed. However, in contrast to my fear and anxiety, my body became extraordinarily strong. At that time, I still didn't understand the reason for that. One day, my mask got broke on accident in the middle of a battle, revealing my face that I absolutely wanted no one to see. What do you think the reaction from everyone around was? What I heard wasn't the sound of booing, but fangirl cheering. The reflection of my face in the puddle was that of a different person. It was at that moment that I finally understood clearly what was happening to my body. A body that was strengthened many-fold through unnatural means, and an appearance that had conveniently transformed. Because I cursed my ugliness, I had become a monster. So this is Amai Mask like full on revealing and admitting to Saitama that he is in fact a monster. All these allusions to it that we got like throughout the Monster Association arc, they're finally all coming to fruition. If you guys remember, one of the natural ways that humans can become a monster is by having like an intense rush of negative emotions. Emotions so intense that they cause mutations in their body, causing them to transform into a monster, usually taking on the theme of the root of those intense negative emotions. For Amai Mask, it was his appearance. He thought he was so ugly, which, I mean, I'm assuming he was, but he cursed his ugliness so much that it literally transformed him into a monster, and the monster appearance that he took on was that of a handsome person. Because in a sense, when you become a monster, it kind of gives you like what you want, but at the cost of losing your own humanity. So Amai Mask wanted to not be ugly anymore. He cursed it so much that he literally turned himself into a handsome person, and through monsterization, his body became many times stronger than an average human, which explains his insane strength and regeneration, because monsters monsters are able to regenerate. Or actually scratch that, I feel like most monsters aren't able to regenerate, but maybe Amai Mask is, because he was so worried and obsessed with transforming himself and remaking himself that might have gave him some kind of regeneration ability, because it literally makes him able to redo himself whenever he wants. Like I said, Amai Mask's backstory is a lot more tragic than I feel like a lot of us could have anticipated. It really makes you feel for him and like why he's looking for the ideal hero, because he really does truly care about people and protecting the public. And in his eyes, the best way to protect the public is to give them as much hope as possible by showing them like some kind of beacon of hope, the ideal hero. And it's something that he knows he can never become, because he knows that he isn't really human and he's truly a monster just trying to fight his monster urges as much as he can. So that's why he's so desperately trying to make Saitama the ideal hero, something that he can never become. Now, for those of you that have read the webcomic, you know that after this chapter, things like really get good, at least for the readers, maybe not so much for Amai Mask. So I am very excited to see these next couple chapters come out. Let me know what you guys thought about this adaptation of the webcomic, or if you're a manga only reader, let me know what you think about this chapter in general. I definitely loved it, but I want to hear your opinions.